this year, 2022, we are observing the year of the diaspora. 200 years since our brothers and sisters returned from the United States to Liberia in 1822.
I was going to say that in terms of the year of return, I think we have to be very careful about how we frame this. Because in the same way that the return or the repatriation of Liberians from the United States and the Congo River Basin as well as Caribbean, only featured the experiences and the exploits of those who'd come from abroad. I think to a certain extent, the year of return could do something similar in a detrimental way by not featuring the experiences and the exploits of those who didn't come from abroad. So I think we have to be very careful about how we frame it such that the vast majority of people in Liberia do not feel slighted in any way, shape, or form. Yes, this should not be the year of the diaspora. It should be the year of the encounter. I would say that we need to change the framing in that respect, because when those who came from abroad, they didn't just come to this sort of barren tabula rasa land where nothing existed. There were people who were thriving. There were, these existing ethno-linguistic groups who existed in the hinterland as well as on the coast, in the same way that those who are coming back for the year of return are meeting or encountering those who never had any sort of experience of being abroad. So I would say that we need to think about it as a year of the encounter or the year of the re-encounter. If we're being sensitive to the varied experiences of Liberians, both abroad as well as those in the country. And given our history of divisiveness, given our history of disunity, we need to think about how does this year of return promote unity? And one of the ways of doing that is to reframe it.
A very important point. But recently you addressed the House of Representatives and senators in Liberia about your book, of course. How did that go? How was the reception?
I mean, it's interesting because I spoke to the House of Representatives when I was in Liberia conducting research for this new book, Africa's Negro Republics. So this would have been early August 2021. And I only spoke to the leadership of the House. So Beaufort Chambers invited me to have a conversation with the leadership of the House. So effectively the heads of different committees of the House. And there was quite a bit of pushback against the idea of what I call advancing the aspirations of Liberians abroad, as well as addressing the anxieties of those at home. So what I've argued is that the dual citizenship bill has to balance the two. So what are the concerns of those in the country, and what are the aspirations of those abroad who want to be able to keep their Liberian citizenship and then have another citizenship? I think many of the House members, the leadership of the House, felt as if addressing the anxieties of those in the country was sort of a moot issue, that it was really about advancing the aspirations of Liberians abroad. In the Senate, it was a bit different because I did present at the end of the year when they had already been presented by this House bill that was passed, right? So they had something very concrete to work with in terms of whether they concur with the House or whether they reject the House bill altogether. And so in my presentation, I talked about the importance of this balance, but I didn't really have a chance to converse with the Senate because I did my presentation for about 25 minutes and then they thanked me and they said, we will definitely think about your policy recommendations and your major findings in our deliberations. But given the agenda for the plenary on that day, there wasn't much back and forth in terms of the engagement. But what I will say is I did have a post-presentation meeting with Senator Albert Tubechie, and he notified me that many members of the Senate were in favor of my policy recommendations, were in favor of my major findings, and that they would seriously take the 2-page briefing that I gave them into consideration when they are deliberating on the House bill, whether to concur, whether to reject, or maybe to send back the House bill with some revisions. So the jury's still out. We will see in terms of what the Senate decides on this House bill. But I think some of the recommendations that I made are important enough for consideration, or important enough to insert in the House bill, which I believe is a really important progressive bill. It's more progressive than all of the bills that have been proffered between 2008 and now. But I think that there's some essential revisions that need to be inserted in order to, again, address the anxieties, what I believe are legitimate anxieties and fears of those who live in the country.